Okay, good. Hello, everyone. Good evening. This is the WPCA meeting, 6:31 WPCA meeting. Today, July 12th. Judy, would you
Yeah.
do the roll call?
Judy Neville, Tom Schulte,
Here.
Amy Carroll, Todd Levieri,
Here.
Michael Chin is not coming. Chris Labrie. Here. Victor is removed. Marie is removed. Bob Hamill.
Here.
Colin Dobbin.
Here.
All right, so we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So all present as needed.
We have a quorum.
So we have full quorum.
Okay.
Do we have to sit calm?
No.
Yeah, well, he's an
Well,
alternate.
1, 2, 3, we're 3 down. So no, we need him, right?
But he's an open.
Well, he's an alternate.
Oh, yeah, we
vote
need,
him in.
yeah, I'm sorry, we do. Yeah. So we need a motion to seat call.
So moved.
Yeah.
Tom, second. Chris, all in favor?
Yeah.
Aye. Opposed?
Todd, I think I need to be seated.
Oh, yeah, Bob does as well.
I thought he was, I thought he was.
Just
full
watch.
member.
Everyone has to get their 4th of July rust off.
Yeah, okay.
It's already happened.
Take that tree.
Am I missing some?
Was
Weren't
he
you?
automatically promoted?
No, he was.
Maria was ahead of you.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Maria would be
Okay.
the alternate replacement for Neil,
All right.
but Bob still needs to be seated.
So then we need to motion to seat Bob.
Yeah.
So moved.
I'm good. We're getting there.
Amy and Tom, first and second, all in favor? Aye, opposed? All right, you're in. Okay, thank you. So first things first, is Tiger
Is on. Yep, he's on.
on? So I was going to invite Maria up here. Thank you, Maria, and Tiger online to give this board an update on the status of the capacity analysis and capacity findings. Sewer.
Good evening.
Good evening. You might want to just pull that mic a click closer.
There we go. Is that better?
That's better. Thank you.
As discussed last month, on behalf of WPCA and the Department of Public Works, the Engineering Department reviewed the revision of the application before the WPCA for 751 Weed Street. The proposed current application makes, quote, 2 independent requests to move the sewer connection and to increase the discharge capacity. The Engineering Department reviewed the applicant's submission to move the parcel's existing sewer connection, which would require the construction of a sanitary sewer main of approximately 135 linear feet of new 8-inch PVC sewer pipe and a new sanitary sewer manhole within the right-of-way of Elm Street. As discussed last month, the proposal for the new sanitary sewer piping and structure in the right-of-way is in an area where there currently is no sewer main located. The current application before the WPCA states that the project does not require the sanitary sewer main extension work within Elm Street, that the existing sewer collector system contained within a private easement and private property, quote, has ample capacity to handle the proposed additional discharge. Given this declaration, our department would recommend that the requested sewer main work within the right-of-way of Elm Street not be granted, whether beneath the travelway or in the shoulder, as an alternate route was proposed. The applicant did not present any hardship requiring this work within our right-of-way, and the town has no current nor future plans to extend the public sewer in this location. The disruption to our existing right-of-way in Elm Street and infrastructure therein hasn't been justified and would also increase the length of public main that the town would be responsible for in perpetuity. As pertains to the applicant's second request to the WPCA for an increase of flows to the public system, the Engineering Department requested additional due diligence measures from the applicant. The recent April submission included requested sanitary sewer flow test results over a course of approximately 2 weeks from Flow Assessment Services, which recorded the requested existing sewer flows and depth within the existing sewer main in Elm Street, up gradient of its intersection with Park. Their report presents that the flow volume conditions of the existing sewer main in the section of Elm Street east toward the intersection of Elm and Park has sufficient capacity for the proposed increase in flows associated with the current project, approximately 24,000 gallons per day, while maintaining additional available capacity in the pipe. We're still reviewing the results of the sanitary sewer CCT TV work, though relining of sections of the existing Main and Elm Street by the applicant as a condition of site plan approval may be warranted to address proposed increases in flow depth. There are no known issues within the existing private sewer collector nor the public sewer main that appear to impact available capacity of the existing sanitary sewer conveyance system. In addition, based on AECom's flow and load review memo dated March 14th of the wastewater treatment facility, the WPCF, the plant has sufficient capacity to accommodate the additional flows presented by the applicant. Therefore, both the existing sanitary sewer conveyance system and the wastewater treatment facility reportedly have sufficient capacity to accommodate the estimated proposed increase in flows to the town system. The Department of Public Works and Engineering Department offer no objection to the second request of the applicant's submission to the WPCA to increase flows to approximately 24,000 gallons per day.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Questions for Tiger or for Maria? And I'll start with one, maybe a couple. What's the capacity per day? The actual capacity
So of the treatment plant,
of the treatment plant and then this piece of the infrastructure?
so the existing, the treatment plant runs at 1.7 MGD with a peak of 5.5 MGD, millions of gallons per day, excuse me.
Mhm.
And it's running less than the design of 1.7 currently.
Mhm.
And then with the proposed addition of the flows into our main, the numbers have resulted in still an available capacity of 30% within our pipe system. So that was
It was 70% used.
30 of
Thir-
an
thir-
additional 30% available capacity, because that was
Right.
one of my concerns. I
Right.
just wanted to make sure that
Right, right.
when the analysis was evaluated, that the existing flows plus the proposed flows
Mhm.
wouldn't get us
Mhm.
to a completely full pipe, but we still have, it looks like approximately 30% available capacity, which in general, 2/3 is a good rule of thumb, engineering wise.
And what is full, not 100? I know that's, I don't know, I guess there's a dry day and a wet day, so.
Right, right. So the analysis is based on peak results, and that's a 4-time factor.
Okay,
And that's for
important.
flows hitting all at the same time.
That's important. So 4 times is where you came up with the 70%.
What the applicant came up
Oh,
with, yes,
okay.
in their analysis, and we did not challenge their engineering on that, correct?
And my last question was, last summer, and I don't remember which storm, and I'm looking at Tiger, I can't remember which storm it was, or if it was last summer or the summer before, but there was an incident where we had
It was early September.
the infiltration, and there was quite a bit of concern on the part at the water treatment plant. I don't remember now on the infrastructure,
Right,
but at
there
the
were
water.
there were actually 2 storms that happened at the end of the summer and the beginning of the fall
Right,
that stressed our system, and we got up to 7 million gallons per day. Like I had mentioned earlier, our treatment plant is designed for a peak of 5.5.
right.
So it exceeded that. The reason why we were successful with those storm events was in part because of Jim Rogers anticipating the storm coming up and making additional clarifiers available to us. It's kind of like the idea of drawing down a surface water elevation in a dam. That same idea that you leave yourself, a storm's coming,
Mhm.
and you let some floodwaters out. Not in this instance, we didn't let any sewer flows out, but that same idea that you make an additional clarifier available for additional capacity. What our goal is with our I&I study is to identify where throughout the town in our conveyance system, where there are opportunities to either line or replace or maintain some of our existing sewer so that we're not getting storm flows either inflowing by illegal connections or high groundwater elevations infiltrating into our sewer main. So ultimately, we are working towards not having a 7 million gallon per day peak due to a storm.
Mhm.
So that's kind of where we are in the range of dry weather
Yep,
conditions
okay.
to wet weather.
So, but knowing
conditions.
that happened and that this still doesn't change your calculus.
Correct. I mean, 24,000 gallons per day to a 7 million gallon peak is about 1/3%.
Yeah, okay. Other questions?
I guess just so I understand, I guess your conclusion seems clear.
Mhm.
I just want to make sure I understand it. So there's a design theoretical capacity limit, and then you're kind of describing a practical capacity limit, right? Rule of thumb, you want to make sure there's some available excess capacity. And that's because history or experience tells us that certain events can drive these 7 million a day events.
Correct.
So I'm wondering if the experience that drives these 7 million a day events are, how recent is that data? In other words, we've all seen experiences where, oh, well, those mortality tables haven't been updated in years or
Right.
whatever. I just want to understand the basis for the.
No, understood. So the report that AECom did on the treatment plant was based on the last 3 years of data, calendar year. So 2019, 2020, and 2021. So it is recent data, which is good because obviously we're getting more intense storm events than we've really ever gotten. So it is reflective of current events. And aside from those couple of instances, those 2 instances, our peaks were always below the 5.5 threshold, which is good. And the fact that we've always had in plan before there was ever an application put forth on this property to address our inflow and infiltration, our goal is to mitigate and not have another condition where we get to the 7 million. Now, what I want to put out there, and not for this application because we don't have anything before our town fathers on that, is that I believe strongly that for applicants that come in with an increase in flows, that ultimately I think it would be a nice mechanism to, as part of their application, that there be a dollar amount or a project to pick from this I&I study results as to where those equivalent increase in flows could be addressed within our system to reduce the same amount of flows. So I probably will, once we get AECom's results back, which are probably not going to be until the end of the summer, the beginning of fall, with their strategy, we will come back and we'll, come up with some sort of mechanism to address that and add that to our application, because I think it's logical and other municipalities are doing it.
Okay, that probably has to go to us as well as town council,
Right,
maybe. I'm
would,
not sure if
yeah,
it's a
yeah.
change to I don't know about that. Maybe just Board of Selectmen and us. Don't know.
No.
Okay,
Yes.
great point. Thank you for that. That's good. A good thought. Other questions? Chris, do you have questions?
Yeah, just a clarification. So with respect to the first point, whether the private feeder has the capacity, what was the town's conclusion?
So based on the results that were provided to us by the applicant regarding the private collector system, that collector system also had sufficient capacity. That collector system was built in around 1996, only has the 5 houses on it. So that one definitely has available capacity just based on the fact that it doesn't have as much flow as once you start getting down Elm Street. So, and we haven't been able to view the televised results of that collector system, but we've been told by the applicant that they don't see any obstruction using that collector system.
Are you verifying that?
I am looking through the, yes. I think what we need from the applicant, which would be helpful, is that we got 21 files of videos, which I'm making my way through the scintillating videos of going down sanitary sewer main and storm. I think what would be helpful is some graphics that associate and kind of connect the video to the section. I'm doing my best that I can do. But I've also kind of posed the question to the applicant based on these results, did they have any proposed changes to the plan? So we're, waiting to hear that. And then kind of what their conclusions are, because as we go through and Jim Rogers is on vacation this week, but I also want him to be able to take a look
Sure.
at these because,
Okay.
with the sewer department.
Okay. Okay. What happens if it gets breached? What happens?
At the treatment plant.
At the treatment plant. Let's assume the infrastructure.
So what that would mean is that we wouldn't make permit, but we wouldn't necessarily be fined or because we're showing that we're doing this I&I study. We're showing that we're working towards this, this goal. So we, there wouldn't be retribution back on the town from deep. We just wouldn't meet permit. And Jim Rogers, he unfortunately can't, because like I said, he's on vacation. He
Yeah.
can't tell you a little bit more about the thresholds of the permit, but if you have any questions on that, Tiger might be able
Okay.
to.
Tiger, any
better
other
answer
thoughts
that.
on that? I mean,
No, Maria pretty much answered. It would be a situation where we would have to, we'd have to do a little bit of cleanup in and around the plant, or we would have to allow some of the effluent into the 5 mile, to alleviate the problem. We would, in essence, at first, we'd allow it to flow over the walls, right? Then if it got too much and we were going to be stressed, we were going to be worried about losing some of the infrastructure that we have, then obviously we would open up the effluent pipe and allow it to come straight through the plant. At that point, we've never been in that situation before. Granted, last year, we came close, but those storms were quite rare in that regard. And to Maria's point, the plant operator Jim and his crew do a fantastic job of pre-planning in anticipation of an event to get the plant ready, to be able to take that shock, but we wouldn't make permit, which would not be a good thing. But during those events, a lot of plants throughout the state do not make permit because of that reason, because of the fact that there's just too much inflow. But we wouldn't be looking at any retribution because we are, like Maria said, we are putting together a $200,000 I&I study, which would then trigger engineering measures for us to go forward and work on infrastructure repair or hardening, if you'd like to call it that. So in that regard, that's what DEP would want. They would want to see us, what are you going to do to prevent this in the future? Well, we're already taking steps to prevent that in the future. So that would be our answer, I think, and I think that would satisfy them.
okay, any other questions on capacity? Any other concerns? Is there any reason why we can affirm this and just and we can have a motion that supports the finding that there's capacity?
Mhm.
But do you have any reason to believe we should hold off or put a caveat in there based on the rest of the work that you're doing?
No, like
Okay.
I mentioned, I think that what really is going to happen is when we finish our evaluation of the main, it's more just the condition. It doesn't have anything to do with the capacity, whether or not the applicant would have to reline certain sections of the main.
Different issue. Yeah.
Right, exactly. And that could be a condition of site plan approval. So that could be separate than
Okay.
in your findings.
Michael said he's trying to get in. Did you help him? Oh, he did join. Good. Okay. All right.
Yeah, I'm here. Todd.
Okay, thanks, Mike. I just want to make sure if somebody on and you're going to vote, I need to know.
Yes. I am
Okay.
on.
If there are no other questions, we could move to public comment. If there's any. So
Anybody?
we're welcoming you to make a public comment as it relates to the issue of either capacity or the extension that's been discussed by us on June 7th, and of course P&Z just a couple of weeks ago. So if anyone has a comment related to any one of those two topics, we would welcome it. We can sign up, please, and have a 2-minute limit.
Yeah, if there's anybody here, I think Sean, you're the only one wanting to speak. No, okay. If there's anybody.
Did you want to? Okay.
If there's anybody online who would like to speak to the extension or connection issue, if a capacity issue, if they could raise their virtual hand, we could call on them.
Virtual land, I love it.
Seeing none.
Okay. Okay, so then what I'd like to do is, without any public comment, let's review where we are. And then we have to have a motion on having disposition related to the application as it relates to both topics here, specifically the extension. So let me try to review where we are. So
Excuse me,
oh,
say that you might. Would the applicant be able to give some closing remarks before you move to deliberations?
sure. How long were you thinking? I mean,
10 minutes.
okay. Yeah, of course.
Okay.
You can stay at the table.
It's okay if you want to just come, yeah, sit there and do it. It's fine.
Right. Good evening, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. Attorney Tim Hollister representing the applicant with my professional engineer consultant Len DeAndrea with me. We want to briefly comment on the supplemental materials that were submitted last week. Pleased, of course, to hear the town engineer's conclusion at least with respect to capacity. And I assume the 824 report is considered received into the record. And I just want to clarify for the record that you now have on your website materials that date back to our January application. I would just assume that everything that's on the town website is part of the record without everything being marked. And if that understanding is correct, I will
I
move
can't tell you
on.
the answer to that question. Tucker, you'd have to answer that question. I don't do website maintenance.
We've had 2 files created, with the different dates. So we've left everything up there for reference. You referenced back to a few of the first documents that were submitted. So everything's been remaining on the website.
Okay, so as long as what's on the website is part of the record, then I'm good.
Did you have was there a concern that something was missing?
No. I
Just checking.
I think I just checking, just part of my job. I'd like to have Mr. DeAndrea talk about the last week's materials.
Good evening, Leonard DeAndrea, Connecticut professional engineer. I found myself nodding in agreement with much of the presentation that Ms. Copeland made for you tonight. You have a great DPW staff and we have great respect for her. I look at this development now that we have actually 3 ways. We, as the engineer for the development, felt that the best long-term solution was to extend the sewer main 135 feet in the street, tight pipe, plastic, video inspected, air tested, coated manhole. So we don't look at that as being as a maintenance problem, but we like redundancy. We like alternatives. So we have 2 other alternatives. We could run a sewer lateral down the northerly shoulder of Elm Street and connect to the existing manhole, or we could continue to use the private sewer main, the private sewer collector that serves those 5 houses. The video inspections, sorry, there's so many videos, but that's what they wanted us to do. And we retain Highland Sewer and Drain. They're out of Greenwich, Connecticut. We use them almost exclusively because we think they are the best. They have all the equipment they could possibly need or want to run cameras down the line, to clean the lines if necessary. So they did that. I was present for the video inspection of the private sewer collector on that one day. We did the 2 legs going northerly and then westerly into our site. And it's white plastic pipe. We found absolutely no debris and no cracks. So we're very, very confident. And we have the information. We know the profile of that line. So with our computations, we have absolutely no issue if the condition was to use that private sewer collector. Since she did such a great summary, I just, as a professional engineer, state for you tonight that based on our video inspections, based on our computations, based on the report by AECom, we see no adverse impacts to your sewer infrastructure or the sewage treatment plant, given the capacity, if this development is approved.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So what I'd like to finish with is some responses to the Planning and Zoning Commission's 824 report. And some of this you heard back on June 7th, but now I'll sort of clarify it in response specifically to what the Planning and Zoning Commission said. One of the well-established rules in court cases is that a town cannot use its sewer system to control land use and zoning. There are separate functions and separate agencies. Example, the Doughty, D-A-U-T-I case in Newtown about 12 years ago. The Newtown adopted through its WPCA a sewer plan that only allowed sewer for single-family homes in certain parts of town, even though more capacity was available. And the Connecticut Appellate Court held that the WPCA manages the sewer system, but the PZC decides land use. The WPCA cannot veto land use proposals or zone changes by refusing to allocate available capacity. So here, the Planning and Zoning Commission's report is negative because it says the town should not allow a sewer connection to facilitate multifamily residential on a parcel zoned for single family. Simply put, that is contrary to the court decisions. The report even comments to say that the sewer proposal would change the character, quote unquote, of the town, which is a decision criterion for land use that was specifically prohibited by state law in 2021. In addition, Attorney Gelderman advised you back in February of this year, and you have a copy of his memo in our April application, that in considering the sewer application before you, you should not consider zoning or land use, and you should assume that the property is zoned for multifamily and focus on sewer system management. We explained this limitation to the PZC, that it was reviewing what you are reviewing, the installation within Elm Street and the proposed capacity and discharge, but they should not consider land use. Essentially, they're subject to the same limitation as Attorney Gelderman explained to you. Respectfully, they ignored that direction and said that the Plan of Conservation and Development designates 751 Weed Street as a single-family home, so the proposed change to the sewer should not be permitted. I think I agree with Mr. DeAndrea. We agree with and accept the 10 engineers' conclusion about sufficient capacity. I think that's pretty clear. The other thing about the Planning and Zoning Commission report that we had scratched our head a little bit was they said there's no planning benefit to the sewer proposal. Well, that's exactly why we were here on June 7th, saying that there's no planning consequence to what's being proposed here, and therefore there was no basis for the 824 referral in the first place. So in our view, in addition to the report being advisory and unappealable, it is simply incorrect and contrary to the case law. The other thing I want to note is Town Ordinance 51-1, which we talked about back on June 7th. I'm going to slightly paraphrase, and what it says is, quote, "No new building used for human habitation shall be constructed on property abutting streets wherein public sewer lines are available, not adjacent, but available, unless such building is, quote, provided with connections to such public sewer lines." So if this proposed building is approved through the zoning process, it would appear that the town is going to be required to allow the connection that's being proposed right now. And we also assume that that is why the town's health department took, quote, "no position," unquote, on this application, recognizing that to recommend denial would violate the town's own ordinance. So I will close just by quoting what I think you're aware of, or maybe this is where you left off, Mr. Chairman. What's before you is to vote on the proposal to move the sewer discharge from the private collector lateral easement into Elm Street. And the second is on the additional discharge. As we've stated several times, the property is already connected. The additional flow is minimal. There is ample capacity. There is no engineering reason. Even if you consider this to be a discretionary decision, we just don't see any factual or legal basis to deny, including the fact that the town has no plan. Well, the applicant has a right, is a property owner and intending to redevelop it, and has a right, is because sewers are a public utility, to propose its connection, which we think is logical and good planning. So I'll stop there. Thank you very
Okay,
much.
no, thank you. Thank you. Appreciate that.
Mhm.
Um, well, we can't speculate on future P and Z rulings. Obviously, we don't know what the future will hold. All we can do is really answer the question that's in front of us. So let me try to summarize what I think is where we are on this. And I think it's a little simpler than all the aspects I think that you just walked through. So we know that the 751 Weed Street's occupied single family, as you said. On June 7th, I think the way I would summarize it is the applicant you indicated your request for the 135-foot extension and the new manhole is for convenience and is not required to provide its proposed development with access to the town sewer system. You've stated you have the right to provide sewer system service to the proposed development through the existing easement. Now, I don't know whether you do or you don't. That's not our swim lane. That's not our domain. That'll have to get settled. But for us, given that there's that option available to you, and you, as you, Mr. DeAndrea has also said, that option exists. That's obviously part of our findings. In terms of the town engineer recommended against approval of the proposed manhole and sewer main, just based on the fact that the new manhole and sewer main extension, once constructed, will become a maintenance responsibility of the town in perpetuity. Since the property is connected to the town sewer through a recorded private easement, as you know, as you've stated, there'd be no need to permit the new infrastructure. So on June 7th, we determined by unanimous vote that the proposed new manhole and proposed new sewer main constituted a municipal improvement, as that term is defined in Connecticut general statutes, and we referred the proposal to P&Z for their report. They met, as we know, and they have issued a negative report, a disapproval of that extension under the 824. Separately, we just heard, really for the first time thoughtfully, that the town engineer, public works director have advised that the New Canaan sanitary sewer system does have sufficient capacity. It's important that can accommodate the proposed development at 751 Weed for the 102 multi-family development that's being proposed. So we have to really think about two things. One, can we confirm, do we agree on the capacity point? And then two, where do we stand as it relates to approving or denying the extension? So given all of that, the town engineer recommended denial. The P&Z's obviously received a negative disapproval report. There's access through the private easement. I think given all of that, I think we need a vote on a resolution. So I'll propose a resolution. We can discuss it and then vote. So the proposal would be that the application for approval to construct a new sanitary sewer manhole and an extension of the 135-foot of new sewer main in the Elm Street is hereby denied. That would be my proposal. Yes, sir.
I'm sorry. Okay. Is the hearing at this point in time closed? You should probably do that before you necessarily enter into your discussion.
On the public comments?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
okay.
I mean, I assume
Sure.
it's closed. at this point.
Anyone else besides?
No additional information is going to be accepted.
Sure. Yep, I appreciate that. We'd have a motion to close the,
You don't have to do that.
okay. Well, I think we closed it 11 minutes ago when no one joined in, but that's fine. Okay, so that's the motion on the table.
So you're, just for discussion, so your proposed motion is, putting aside the substance, just procedurally, is to deal with the relocation issue and creating the manhole, and then the separate is on whether or not we.
I think I'll do a separate resolution on capacity, just to
Yes.
keep them. We've talked about two things. I just think it's cleaner for the record and everything else to support or not.
Can I ask, are we required to make a finding on capacity? I'm asking the town attorney. We
Yes.
are, as part of
Yeah,
our.
we do. That's why we asked for all the. You don't think we asked Maria to look through
No,
21
I'd be
videos?
happy to defer to her and not have to have a motion. We don't
In
have to.
essence, we defer to the engineer and obviously Public Works,
Okay.
given the work that they did and the report that they provided. Yeah.
The one other thing, Todd, I wanted to ask is, there's a new proposal to run an alternate route that was in the supplemental materials, and we haven't really had heard from the applicant about that, other than to say it's a third alternative.
We need to move on what we have.
I think you need a second before we get into the discussion. of
okay.
the,
Yeah, I was gonna second,
Yeah.
but it's not allowed yet.
But now you can have the discussion.
I will second it if we need to back up.
I
Yeah,
read the resolution that
Yeah.
I tried to craft from the notes of listening to what we were talking about here. So I could have a motion and a second.
so you want me to make the motion or do you want me to make the second?
You can, no, I think,
I'll move for
Okay.
discussing what you.
yeah, very good.
Propose.
In a second.
And then
Okay.
Judy's can second
fine.
that. Get back to
Perfect.
columns.
Okay.
question.
That's fine.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Really was more point of clarification. Are we also considering as part of this motion, the alternate plan that the applicant put forward in the newest paper?
So we can discuss that. I think it doesn't change the fact that there's this easement that everybody believes that they believe that they've got access to, which is their argument. And P and Z has provided their input on that. So I think we have to close the loop on that if you want to come back with another approach. Go ahead, Maria.
So just to clarify what the Elm Street right of way is, it's not just the pavement, it's from property line to property line. So it extends approximately 10 feet, 10 to 12 feet on either side of the pavement. So in our determination, we specifically said within the right of way that we would object to that work, whether it be in the shoulder or be under the pavement.
Okay, thanks.
That's
That
helpful.
clarifies.
And the rationale is the same. meaning
Again,
The
It's
maintenance into perpetuity, all applies.
correct, and that there was no hardship. There was no justification for, a hardship, really.
Understood.
Thanks for the clarification.
Thank you.
Of course.
Other questions, discussion? Clarification? If none, we have a first and a second. All in favor of the resolution to deny, say aye.
Aye.
Michael? Opposed?
Aye.
Do we need
Abstains?
to go down and vote? Okay.
Abstentions? None? Okay. Motion moved. Okay, I'd like to secondly have an affirmation on capacity, given the information we've heard from the applicant, from their engineer, from our engineer, and the work that's been done. I don't think, it sounds like we need to have a caveat. It sounds like you've got all you need to make that. So again, I'd like a motion to confirm that our agreement that there's capacity in the system for this development.
Correct.
As described. Motion, Amy?
So moved.
I'll second. Colm, any questions, any discussion? Okay, none. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. Abstention? No? Okay, so moved. Maria, thank you.
Before you end, you had a resolution there that I thought you were going to read to the record that gave findings and actual reasons
that.
for your
I think that's-
decision.
I think that's how I
That
read
should
it.
be the motion.
Yeah.
That the board actually considers. So someone can move to reconsider the motion so that you can make that your motion. That resolution ought to be what the authority votes on. It
So my summary of all that, you're saying,
was a summary, but
plus the,
well,
yeah.
if the summary included everything that is the basis for the denial.
Yeah. Yeah.
If that's what the board as a collective group.
that's what I tried to put,
understands.
I think
Yeah,
I
I thought
said
you
all,
did
read all
that,
that. So, and I think I had all that, but you're saying that's what you're saying, that has to be part of the motion.
Well, yes, because the authority ought to have clear collective reason for their decision.
Yeah.
And so the easiest way to do that is to read that and have the board or the authority adopt that as their findings and their collective reasons for their decision.
You're confusing me. I said that the manhole and the sewer serve no practical purpose, that they have access to a private easement. The town engineer denied it and P and Z did.
Right, but the motion was simply then to deny.
Well, then all of that, for all those reasons, I said. Okay, so
We
how
need to
would you like me to
repeat it
reframe it? Let's get it clean.
If
That's
it's
fine.
clear that it's for all of those reasons and everybody.
I said those words. I think I said for all of these reasons.
Mhm.
We want to make sure it's part of the record in case of an appeal, right? So
Well,
Okay,
I think we want to make sure it's done cleanly.
I agree, totally agree.
There's-
Yeah, sure.
If there's any concern, how would we do that? What's your recommendation as
to
to?
read a resolution that you prepared, basically, to read it and vote on that.
I'm happy to do that. If you
Okay,
want to
that's-
start it all again, I've got to,
that's what I think the better way to do this is.
absolutely. Okay, well, I
Excuse me.
think we summarized the findings. These are the
Mr. Chairman, I just want to put my objection on the record to reopening the vote. Thank you.
Okay, well, I believe I read all that just and said those words, and I did say it was for those reasons.
Your motion
That's
said
And you got it on video. It's why it's on video. So
motion said it was for those reasons, then if.
I
that's-
literally said for those reasons at least twice.
That's why I voted yes.
Yeah, thank
Yeah.
you. Tom.
Like
Yeah.
everybody else.
Exactly
Yeah,
right.
I
Yeah.
think we all did.
So for all those reasons, I think it's all on video and very good. Okay, thank you, everyone. All right, I do need a motion to approve the minutes from the June 7th meeting.
So moved.
Second,
Aye.
call, all in favor? Aye,
Aye.
opposed, none. And then we need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Amy? Tom, thank you. Okay. All in favor? Opposed, none? Okay, so we're adjourned. We'll take a like a 2-minute break